see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get any...
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Big Football Show. It's back on our Sunday routine as we took an abbreviated version, put it on Saturday. Great show. They filled in well. Chris came on, and of course we had Pags and Byron on to kind of fill in for our regular guest host. Great job by those guys. And look, guys, let's get right to it. Yesterday's game, I thought there would be a lot of scoring in the Cleveland-Houston game. It turns out that Houston did most of the scoring, and for a game I thought in bad weather, where there would be a closer game than it was, Patrick Mahomes and his new go-to wide receiver Rice put it on the Miami Dolphins, who couldn't run the ball. They didn't throw downfield like I thought they would. Tyreek Hill did get his touchdown in, but we'll get your thoughts going around here quick. Let me give you some stats here. Of course, you had C.J. Stroud in the Cleveland game, threw for 274 yards, 3 touchdowns. Singletary had a touchdown, 66 yards rushing. Collins got a 1 reception for a touchdown. Flacco threw for 307 yards, but threw 2 big sixes, which kind of put the game away for Houston. Njoku, again, with a big game. Great tight end. I think he's got a real good future ahead of him. So just starting with that game, guys, did you think that that Texas would dominate like they did, Jim? I mean, I thought that Cleveland would give them a better game than that.
I didn't anticipate it. I thought it'd be a closer game. But to be honest with you, Flacco's been off of borrowed time. By that, I mean that he's been playing well. Houston is a different team. I have to compliment DeMarco Ryan, and he should be NFL Coach of the Year for what he's done. But they're a unique team because they play good defense. And here's the thing. They drafted high for the last 3 or 4 years, and they've made good draft picks if you look at that. And that's helped them become the team because you got a all-pro offensive tackle in Larry Tunsil. You got Devin Singletary from Buffalo who helped them out yesterday. You got Will Anderson on defense. You got Barnett from Philadelphia. And they have pieces. And I didn't realize these pieces would come together this fast. And then you got to give Bobby Slowick. His father was a coach on our Super Bowl teams, and he's done a tremendous job.
Okay. So Sonia, looking at that game, this kid, CJ Stroud, is already a veteran. I said this before the playoffs started. He starts off as a rookie. He really is a veteran out there right now. He's accurate. He's accurate under pressure. He moves well in the pocket. He really didn't have to run that much yesterday against the Browns. Myles Garrett was very frustrated when the game was over. And everybody says, well, learn from this experience. To me, I don't know what you learn from that, except that you're not good as the Houston Texans. What are your thoughts? Unmute yourself. There you go. Can you?
Didn't realize I was still muted from the theme song. Sorry about that. So my thoughts were spot on from the time I actually picked them to win in our pick'ems, because I felt like it would be rookie versus veteran to a degree, but sometimes youth kind of wins out. Flacco showed us basically a glimpse of his former self, even though I actually did think he was going to be more formidable coming back, and he was enough to get the team to the playoffs, but definitely not enough to secure the win. In honesty, there's just it's going to be difficult to stop that team. I think that CJ Stroud is literally on fire. When you combine him with D'Amico Ryans, they are a combination that is going to be hard to stop. I even thought last night perhaps they may, if given a chance, give Baltimore a run for their money. So you just never know because they are really looking good right now.
Good morning to Rick. How you doing today? Glad you could join us.
Good morning,
so,
Rick.
Jack, I mean,
Morning, Rick.
all along, Jack, you've been saying that Flacco is not the guy everybody thinks he is. That he would eventually, do what he did when he played with the Jets, and that. So, what are your thoughts? Flacco done with the Cleveland Browns?
No, I mean, Flacco could still be a competent backup somewhere, but these backups seldom pan out in the long term. Once in a while, you catch lightning in the bottle, like when the Cowboys drafted Dak Prescott in the 4th round. No one thought he was going to replace Tony Romo, and Romo got injured, and Prescott went on a big run. That happens once in a while, but we saw the best of Joe Flacco long enough. The different type of interceptions, those 2 pick sixes are completely on Joe Flacco. Those were awful throws. Just think of it.
Yeah.
14 points he basically handed over. And the touted Cleveland defense, I mean, the tackling was awful, guys getting open. What exactly happened defensively to them? I mean, I don't understand Cleveland's defensive effort because it didn't parallel the way they performed during the season.
Well, it is. They did say that Cleveland away's defense is way worse than it is at home. And I don't think the first throw by Flacco was his fault. He was getting hit. He was trying to throw the ball away. He couldn't get enough mustard on it to get the ball out of bounds.
It was a lollipop, Mac. It was a lollipop.
But he got hit. But the second one was his fault. He stared down the receiver.
Was all,
he jumped.
That was all him. So you're right. You're right on that second one, Jack. That was, as Jim said. He was.
And then to Jack's point, I disagree with it. Some backups like Hostetler for the Giants, he came in and he won. He helped them win. And then, Baltimore, there's been backups that have come in.
You think about how Nick Foles got pulled in and he took the Eagles all the way.
Exactly.
So you literally never know.
Tom Brady takes over the Bledsoe.
No, Brady's not a backup per se. Come on, I mean,
but he was at that point.
He was.
You can't change
that. They can win to a point. Jeff Hostetler did it with a great running game where they took time off the clock. I mean, low-scoring games. He played to the game. He did an excellent job, but he wasn't going to be the long-term answer as a Giant quarterback.
Well,
the one thing where Cleveland was hurt, no one mentions. The man who was on the sideline who couldn't play, Deshaun Watson. Had Deshaun Watson not gotten hurt, had been able to shed the rust, played the rest of the way for Cleveland, you don't know what position Cleveland would have been going into this game because Deshaun Watson is an elite quarterback. He just needs a chance to regroup and get back to his own self.
He was an elite quarterback. We still got to find out about him as he hasn't really played for the last 2 years. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. But he was at Texans. He was an elite quarterback. So let's get into the second game, guys. Miami at Kansas City. I picked Miami. So did Jack. You know where I found out when I started getting worried was in pregame. And pregame, they're all hyped up. They're talking a lot of stuff. They're all excited. They don't have their shirts on. I mean, long sleeve shirts on anyway. And I started getting nervous. Kansas City's not celebrating. They're getting ready to play the game. And, it kind of reminds me of, Jack, you might remember this. Remember what I forget what Minnesota Vikings said this, but he said every team, when they had outdoor stadium, every team that came in, the guys were all pumped up. They weren't wearing shirts. They're all ready to play football. As soon as they got hit, that was it. They didn't want no more of the game. And I'm not sure. I might have been Alan Page.
It was D. I think it was D.
It's like the Dolphins were trying to convince themselves, no, this weather's not going to affect us. It's like one after the other was going up, each guy to himself. And you're right, the Chiefs were all about business. They were all focused. And the Dolphins, just seemed distracted. They were like one team was cheerleading. The other team was taking a professional approach.
But you're right. And these are professionals. But the problem is, it's a mental thing because what did you think Kansas City did when they came out? They put the temperature out there. It's whatever, 0 or -5 or whatever, and that gets in your head. So you're a visiting team, and especially if you're from Miami, where you just left 75-degree weather, you think, wait, shit, it's
And
not
that was
cold.
my
It's not
thought.
cold. I'll never forget. We played the New York Giants, and it was 125 degrees on the field. And I said, these guys are going to wilt. We wilted because they ran the ball.
I like Michael Strahan, the attitude he had before the Giants played that big playoff game in Green Bay, about 0 degrees. He says you have to be in it. You may as well win it.
Yep, I agree.
I feel like,
We
how
did.
can you not even consider the weather as a factor with it being so absolutely contrastually different, with almost, like you said, 80 degrees and almost negative 80 degrees? Physically, you have to at least consider that. And for them to come out there, I guess they thought that their mental was just going to overdo it. But even when people come to Miami, they put the visiting side in the sun, in the heat.
That's right.
And so, it's kind of like when you dish it out, you got to be willing to take it back to the extreme in this situation. But we got games being canceled because of blizzards. But then the temperatures, I felt like it was really extreme for them to be playing in those temperatures to begin with.
The NFL's got to do something. Games shouldn't be played in this type of weather.
No,
Right.
no. They
Right.
Thank you. I knew Jim was going to come around. That's
It's just
football. Sorry.
cold. You can deal with that.
The field
Negative
itself
21.
is
Jack,
so
then choose another sport to go into. That's football.
Play
That's the
basketball, Jack.
way. Play basketball, play somewhere else. If you don't want to do that, you know what you're in for, especially when you get drafted by teams.
But Sports
You
Stadium
play
is
a-
closed in. The Lions, theirs is closed in.
Good for them. I'm glad. I'm glad Minnesota's is too. And again, they haven't gone to the Super Bowl since they have left.
I mean, we do everything
Yeah,
we
we'll
do
go to the-
is for the fans to be obviously comfortable. But you look back in the history of football and some of those games, like you mentioned, Minnesota. I've been in games in Buffalo where it's been brutal because you're on that east side of the lake and you get that lake effect snow, So
And Jim, I mean, being a team, you want that advantage in the playoffs. So once you
really
take
do.
that advantage away, it becomes equal. And even if you have a team that's not as talented, you got a good shot at beating them just because that other team doesn't play in the weather. So
That's right.
I don't think there are teams out there that will ever put I don't think Chicago will ever put a ceiling on that stadium. I don't think Green Bay's ever going to do that. I just don't think that's going to happen.
I hope
Jim,
not.
Jim, do they practice indoors or outdoors?
Buffalo,
This type of weather.
They have
Yeah,
an indoor
but please,
facility.
were they indoors or outdoors having
they
their
have an
practice?
indoor facility, and on Friday they go outdoors because it's basically a glorified walkthrough. So they do have an indoor right next to the facility or to the stadium.
So did they get a head start on Miami, like an extra day, the Chiefs, in brutally cold weather to practice?
No, they actually do. They could, but it's such an intense rivalry. Miami and Buffalo, when Marv Levy came in there, that was his big thing. And Miami's always been the enemy for them, for Buffalo, and teams like that. Now it's going to be KC when KC comes in.
Mac, and I just want to give kudos to my co-host on Glove Fist, Frank Laterzo, a big football fan, a big Dolphin fan. He said a few weeks ago when the Dolphins were riding high, they looked like a Super Bowl threat. He said they'll crash. They always do. They're no threat at all. They'll completely fall apart.
But here's the thing,
Laterzo nailed it.
and I picked Miami too. And the reason is what happened to Miami is injuries at the end of the season. And I keep saying this is not a sprint. This is a marathon.
That's why I didn't pick them.
The healthiest
Don't
teams
Injuries.
are normally the ones
Everyone
Yeah,
has
they-
injuries.
They
Now,
were, listen,
Dallas.
they were
is-
actually pulling. They were pulling people off the streets to get them into that game last night. From that day
Wow.
to the game, which is ridiculous. But that's what happened with Miami. Miami, their defense was just torn apart. It was really it was really devastating to him. And Rick's talking about the king. I guess he's talking about Patrick Mahomes. You have to take it away.
No. He's saying that the Kansas City Chiefs are the champions. And
The question says, Tua, did his stock go down substantially? We talk about the difference between game managers and game changers. And is Tua now considered more or less a glorified game manager based on his performance?
TD, I picked the Texans. On here. I'm 2-0.
Well,
I took the advice, and you got
he bragged.
Mac is hinting that Houston is the Texas team now. They're the real Texas team, not the Cowboys. That's what Mac is hinting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sure.
Really?
Sure, I don't know what.
Interesting.
I don't know what the heck Jack's talking about right now.
How many
Everybody's
rings
trying
do
to
the
get under
Texans
my
have?
skin.
You were just
Yes.
bragging. You have them beating the Ravens if they play them in the next round.
Ooh, the Texans. No, they won't.
Mac,
Here's the problem with the
I
Texans.
think. Listen, I think there's that something wrong with the shot. Whenever Jackson gets in the playoffs, something happens. He could be the MVP every year if he wants. When he gets in the playoffs, something happens to Jackson.
Hey, you
He
believe
takes
it?
too much.
First of all,
He takes too much, Jim. He puts too much on himself. He puts too much pressure on himself. And I don't think that he can change. I think you don't, as a Leopard, you can't change your spots. When he gets in the playoffs, he's going to try it again. He's going to run with the ball. He's not going to throw the way he's been throwing. You'll see.
Overhyped.
He is not overhyped. He is a unique player, and this
He is now. Yes, he looks.
He always has
saying.
Well,
But
he
Mac
always
is
had-
saying when the playoffs.
Okay, let's bring you back on Lamar Jackson. When he sat in that
Thank
room,
you. Yeah, go ahead.
he thought he was going to get drafted in the first round, and he sat there and he proved a lot of people wrong.
Yeah.
He proved a lot of people wrong. I like Lamar.
He's only won one
like
playoff
him.
game.
wait,
One
you
playoff
forget. He entered the playoffs replacing Joe Flacco in a playoff game. Flacco has been the starter for years, Super Bowl winning quarterback. The Ravens, they summoned Lamar Jackson off the bench, and he nearly pulled the game out.
Nearly.
And Joe Flacco was he
Nearly
was
is-
a rookie. He didn't have
Nearly
first team reps.
Nearly is
He didn't have first team reps.
Nearly
And
is the
it's
key
not his
word
fault. He
there.
hasn't chosen
When
the
he wins,
playoffs.
wait,
He hasn't been on
if
teams
he
that are
goes to
good
the
enough.
championship, if he just makes a championship, I'll take it all back. But let's see if he can do that first.
I think he's
before-
good. I don't think he'll win the championship because I know he's going to win the championship, but I think he's pretty good.
Who?
What
Who's
if
gonna win
the
the championship?
Texans upset them?
We'll talk about that later.
What if the Texans
Texans
upset
will.
them?
The Texans, mark my words, Texans beat.
Wait. What's that mean?
You
But
got to remember this is in
Ooh.
Baltimore.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
telling you what's going to happen. So this is one of Jim's new friends that show up at his show.
She works.
She's
She works for
part
the Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't know what she does there for the Cowboys.
She's
but
security on the field. Me and Juanita
She's
saw her
security?
last. Yeah.
Is she a big girl?
Huh?
Is she a big
Let me
girl?
tell
Is
ya.
she a big
No.
girl? Or is she one of those ninja girls that can,
Well,
She carries the big gun.
Okay, well, that's
I'm
that's
going
good
to tell
enough.
you this. Cowboys better take care. We'll talk about it later, of course, when you bring it up, Mac. But Cowboys better take care of business against the Packers because it's going to be ugly in that stadium if they're filing out if they're to lose this game.
I get Keith is at a hotel and he said he might not get in today. I guess he's doing a Vegas thing or whatever. So I'm going to give you Keith's picks right quick now. He took Houston and KC, so he's 2-0 right now as far as his record goes. He's got the Rams winning, the Cowboys winning, Buffalo winning, and the Eagles winning. I don't know why he's got the Eagles winning, but I don't think that's going to be a unanimous pick today anyway. So we'll see what happens. Green Bay knocks the Cowboys. That is the main reason. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I know Jim doesn't think that's going to happen, but we'll see what happens with Green Bay. So I want to talk a little bit about Bill Belichick since Keith is not there. Mayo is the first black coach for New England. It was in Belichick's contract, so Mayo gets the job. He doesn't. They don't have to go through the interview process. They don't have to, worry about getting a coach before the draft. Mayo knows all the players. They say he's halfway between Belichick and the new age coach. That that will help the Patriots quickly get back together again. But they still need a quarterback, guys. What are your thoughts?
Mayo was not Bill Belichick's guy, Matt.
Guess what, Jack? I just checked it again. He was. Belichick put it in his contract that he would get the job. Yes, Jack. So you go back and check things now. Go ahead.
And Pags just knew that it was going to be Vrabel. When Pags and I did our show the other day, Pags just knew that it was a coincidence when Belichick left that Vrabel was going to move right on over to the Patriots because of the connection and because he, used to be a Patriot, whatever. But like you said, it wasn't his contract. He also shadowed Belichick. He was like, the locker room loves him. They've talked about the relationship he's established there. And yeah, so I was shocked about that because it's kind of like this guy came out of nowhere, but Belichick's been shaping and molded this guy all along to be his predecessor. So here you go.
Well, Jim, he didn't come out of nowhere. He would play with the Patriots during the Super Bowl year.
Well, I don't mean like that. I mean like for
he
was
a linebacker.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's only 37 years old.
So anyway,
he was the linebacker coach, though he wasn't the defensive coordinator.
That is true.
No, Belichick's son was. Belichick's son was.
Well, if you're grooming, if Bill Belichick was grooming someone to be his coach, and all logically speaking, if there was a transition, it would have been his son if he had that type of power. I
don't think his son's going to stay there, Jack. I think he's going wherever Bill goes.
Yeah,
wherever Belichick goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Will end up going with him. Rick talking about I guess Tahada she's in better shape than Big Tom. Rick will not let that go. Rick messages me about Pags and Big Tom. So anyway,
Rick makes a point. Notice the Eagles started going downhill when Big Dom got suspended by the league.
Yep. That was their mascot. He was their mascot.
Yeah. Yes, there you go. So anyway, so Mayo does that. Any clue, any idea to pick a team where Belichick would go to? I know we've done this before, but it's a little bit later. Has any team changed? Jim, I think you said he might go to Atlanta. Was that what you were saying?
Yeah.
That
they said yesterday the Panthers were interested in Belichick.
I don't think.
I gotta tell you something.
I'm telling you, it came up.
Yeah, I think he would. I think they're interested, but Atlanta seems like a more likely choice because
maybe because of the owner, Arthur Blank is very tolerant and will let Belichick maybe run the show.
The same team that beat them.
I owe Mac an apology, kind of, because when he mentioned Nick Sirianni conceivably could be in danger at the end of the year, if they lose to Tampa Bay, Sirianni apparently has lost control of the team. If Belichick went to the Eagles, that's his quickest path to break the Shula's record. Because he could go there next year, win like 11 games. So in 2 seasons, he gets it done. If he goes elsewhere like Atlanta, it might take him an extra year. Plus, Philadelphia is on the East Coast, and he could straighten out that defense. He could straighten out guys like Jalen Carter, who got off to a good start and then slowed down. Veteran players like Fletcher Cox he could relate to. I mean, that could be a very nice landing spot for him.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I think the Eagles would be his first choice, but the Chargers are still there. I agree with Rick. That's still a viable. He's got a quarterback in the Eagles. He's got a quarterback with the Chargers. Atlanta, they still don't have a quarterback, and that's the only thing.
And the Commanders off the table because they hired a GM. Yeah. They wouldn't have hired a GM and then interviewed Belichick. They would have waited for Belichick. So the Commanders thought he might go to off the table.
Let's talk a little bit about the college hiring of the former Washington head coach to Alabama, Dobir. He was very emotional leaving his team. He said this would be the only job he would leave his team for, to coach at Alabama. My question to you guys is, they already won Alabama wide receiver already went in the portal. This kind of slows that down, I think, that they got a high quality, high profile coach there, kind of stops the bleeding. My question to you guys is Penix, and I've been bringing this up, Penix declared for the NFL. He can rescind that. Do you think that Penix Jr. decides to rescind that and go with his coach to Alabama and become the starting quarterback for Alabama, maybe get to the national championship?
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Penix, his eligibility is expired because he was 2 or 3 years at Indiana before he went to Washington.
But he still can extend, Jim. I mean, he can, according to what
extend this time, I believe
he can extend.
They just gave somebody 7 years. Somebody just had 7 years.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but I don't think he would.
What I don't understand some of the rules. There's one quarterback who's starting his 7th year. Isn't college supposed to be a 4-year thing? I don't get it.
No, I agree with you. I think it's because of COVID.
Yeah, they gave them 3 years or something like that for the pandemic. So that adds in, I guess, the 4 plus the 3 would be.
Let me tell you a bigger question. If you need a college quarterback, Ewers at Texas, is he going to declare for the draft?
No, he already said he's coming back.
He's coming back. Now, what are they going to do in regards to Manning? Arch Manning, because he's an heir apparent. If I'm Ewers, the first slip up he has, he's going to be out, much the same way Jalen Hurts was with Tua waiting in the wings. Ewers has to be lights out to keep that job.
See, I think that Manning's fine. I think Manning's
not
fine.
For 2 years, not sitting for 2 years.
I disagree. No. I disagree. He'll be fine. And I think he likes being in. If you've ever been to Austin, it is a great college town. And I think he's enjoying his time in Austin. I really do.
Well, back to Penix Jr., because I want to bring this home. His stock, to me, a lot of people saying his stock went up. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I don't think it did. I think it went down a little bit. If he goes there and wins a national championship, maybe wins the Heisman, I mean, that's maybe the first pick of the draft. Right, Sonia? I mean, wouldn't he be the first pick of the draft if he could do this?
Yeah, definitely. If I was him, I probably would rescind the NFL order, declare for the NFL, especially because we know his stock went down when we saw how he played, the injuries that have come out, within the time. I feel like with the whole NIL thing right now, he could almost be still making money while he's there. Go ahead, go with his coach. Get the Heisman. That's even bigger than going into the draft at this point, in my opinion.
And I don't see him as a high first-round draft pick.
No, he doesn't.
I don't. It's not.
You got to remember, this guy's had 2 shoulder injuries, and he's had 2 ACLs.
Yep, 4 quadrants in his body. All of them.
He's a left-hander.
He might.
And that hurts. I'm not saying I like the kid. But maybe Michigan exposed some things that we didn't take into consideration.
I could see him being another Malik Willis falling till the 3rd round. I could really see that.
What Michigan exposed is that award-winning offensive line is not an award-winning offensive line. That's what Michigan exposed during that game. So, anyways. There was a huge argument that I started, especially with the Buffalo Bills. I want to get you guys' thoughts on this, right? So the Bills, of course, they moved their game to Monday. They got the blizzard going on, and I get that, right? So I get it, but it seemed the Bill fans were making light of what the Chiefs in Miami were playing in, and I wasn't having any of that. They were saying, well, people die going to Buffalo, workers are going to die, everybody's dying because they're going to try and make the game, the fans, but yet they're like, it's no big deal that you could get frostbite and that you may lose a couple fingers as a fan or a coach or a player going to Miami. So I had some fun. I think I got kicked out of the Bills Babes group. I'm still in the Bills Mafia. Thank you, Bills Mafia. But anyway, what do you guys think? I mean, I mean, the weather both places was really bad, and I don't know whether they should have played the game in Kansas City or not. I saw where Mahomes' helmet got broke. It was so cold over there, and it was dangerous for both teams. Not that I don't think either team could have played in some way or fashion. Maybe they could have, maybe they should have. I don't know. And I still think Peacock is the major reason why Kansas City and Miami played. That all American dollar, all the views that they were going to get, and that's what happened. Jack, what do you think of my argument with the Buffalo Bills?
Well, you make a great point that I didn't hear anyone mention with Peacock. Let's say the game in Buffalo was scheduled for last night. Would they have moved it to Monday if it was on Peacock? Because their audience was geared towards Saturday night, and they had invested so much in it. I mean, that's thought-provoking. But what was your question beyond that, Mac? I lost my train of thought.
Don't you think that there was, a chance of injury in both games? I mean,
all the time, it's not so much how cold it is compared to how the field is. I mean, think of Kansas City with 4 field goals made. I mean, that football's got to be like ice to kick it. I mean, you kind of wonder how the kicker's foot feels, how the kicker's dead, knowing, on contact with the ball, how his foot's going to feel, how he takes it up.
Oh my goodness!
Wrong show to have Jim on with that kind of correlation, because he's not going to have it.
Jim, when he was a player, Jim could shut off. He didn't have to rush the pass as hard. He could back off. He didn't have to taste the ground as much as he didn't want to. But running backs do. They got to get tackled. Okay?
Yeah.
So Jim didn't get the full effect of like a frozen field when he played.
I did. Jack.
You didn't have to. You could have avoided it during the game. But, certain position players can't. Receivers can't. The quarterback can't.
Jack, I grew up on the Jersey Shore. We went to the championship games almost every year. So I did play in cold water.
It's windy there. You were used to the wind, Jim. The wind, that's a difference.
Jack, I played on it with no grass left. I didn't complain. It's too cold. I'm not going to go out there and play. I'm going to get frosty.
Yeah.
It's a part of the game, Jack. That is football.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
and snow is
like
snow. And snow is snow.
No. Certain things. Wind is part of the game. Fog is part of the game. But you can't have it like 0 degrees. You agree with me, right, Sonia? You can't have it like 0 degrees and the turf is frozen. Andy Reid's mustache got frozen.
I don't want to say anything anymore because I already got checked by Jim on that, and he's the expert. So even though I feel that way, I've never played a game.
What do you mean, Jim? Jim, I understand. Jim is experienced it, in a way that I never did. You never did, obviously.
It's more uncomfortable for the fans than the players. And that's the truth.
But isn't it a game? Isn't it an entertainment entity? And to make all those fans go and sit there through that, is brutal.
They have that choice.
They
have
making them right.
Jack, I saw people with no shirts on in Buffalo.
Yeah,
I thought these guys are crazy.
It was so bad yesterday. I was driving back from my nephew's party at the beach, and it's like a 4-hour drive for me. And Peacock I have DirecTV Stream. And I have Peacock already for The Office, my favorite comedy show. But they were steadily pop-ups coming on. Hey, get this discounted now. You don't want to miss the game. I mean, all these discounts just for this game. So y'all are right. Like, regardless, this game was going to go for it if it was only just the team out there. They were going to make sure this game was aired.
That's what I think. That's exactly what I think happened. I think Peacock said, we paid for this game. We're gonna show this game.
I know a lot of it was not snowing. It was wind and cold. Wind and cold doesn't affect you as if you remember the Giants game in Chicago where the wind was in the cold. And I played in Chicago when it was cold. I played, Jack. I played the whole game. I didn't just rush the quarterback. You get used to those things.
Did you ever play in Shea Stadium by any chance?
Jack, I'm not that. Only time I went to Shea Stadium is to see the Mets.
Okay, no. That Shea Stadium was an open stadium, and it would affect Joe Namath. When I went to a playoff game against the Chiefs, he'd throw the ball into the wind. The ball would keep dying out in the wind. I could understand. That's part of football. You adjust to those elements. I can understand it's a cold day, 25, 30 degrees, but when you get to 0 degrees and it's windy, it's
Negative 21.
subhuman.
Jim's
Rick
not that
Wash,
old.
Jack likes the participation trophy.
What
But,
is
Jim's
Rick
not that
talking about?
old.
Rick watches all the
Jim
games
didn't
on
play with Joe
TV.
Namath.
but hey, honestly,
And no, he's at the, yeah, he's at
it's
the,
just
you
you get used to it.
listen, football is an outdoor game, and we all know it. Baseball, even in early, it's cold, and they're out there playing ball, whether it stings when they hit the ball or not. I mean, that's just part of football, and basketball, as Jim said, that's indoors, and that's where it's meant to be played. So anyway, so let's get a little bit to a couple of big stories. Miami's now. Nobody's talked about this yet, so I'm going to mention it. One of the big stories out of Miami is that their head coach didn't wear sandals during the game. And again, I knew Miami was in trouble, when he wasn't out there in his sandals and his high water pants and stuff. I knew right
And
then that Miami was.
sunglasses.
You want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
You know where he's from, don't you? He's from
No.
Colorado. He's from Denver, Colorado.
Well, he came from the
So
49ers.
he's over enjoying Miami then.
Let me ask you this. Mike McDaniels, we assume that he's going to be safe, but we assume that with Brian Flores as well. Could we get like a shock firing the way Miami fell apart? We didn't expect Pete Carroll to be let go. Might he be the next surprise candidate let go?
I wouldn't.
The season wound up being a disappointment for the Dolphins. It really did when all was said and done.
I was just going to ask that, Jack. I mean, I know he did a good job with Miami during the regular season, but just like Sirianni, is that good enough? And Miami, this is the second time they went to the playoffs and lost, so they really underachieved. They underachieved, and I thought Miami, as Jim did,
during the season, they blew the division that they had locked up.
At the end,
I agree, but here's the thing: this is a sad time in professional sports when you have guys that are 12-5, 3 years in a row, and they're talking about might not be there. You have guys that taken teams that have struggled in the past and won, and now they don't always get to the thing. Andy Reid, if you remember a couple of years ago, they were saying, "Is he done?" Andy Reid is a tremendous coach. And now they're saying Sirianni's a good coach. Don't get me wrong. He just had so much movement on his staff. That hurts in this time and day because they gotta get used to what you do and how you run the team. And this is sad when you take really good coaches.
Not that I disagree with you, but the buck stops at the head coach. He's the one, whether you like it or not. He's the one that put Patricia in the position he was in. He's the one that changed that, the defensive quarter. So the buck stops would, and what Jack says doesn't not make sense. I mean, listen.
No, I'm not saying
underachieved.
I'm just saying it's
right.
sad.
They underachieved, and again, there are a few good coaches waiting to get a job out there, maybe better than their head coach at Miami right now. So I don't count it out. I don't count it out right now. That's all I'm saying, Jim. I'd say the possibility is there. That's all I'm saying. And
what's going to happen?
Possibility. They're talking about Mike Tomlin. And he's never had a losing season in 17
years. But Tomlin's not going to get fired.
They're talking about him.
Mike McCarthy, if they lose to the Packers, that's going to be intriguing. Despite 12-5 seasons, how do you fire someone with 3 12-5 seasons in a row? I mean, how do you do that? But then again, they would have come up empty in the playoffs. And especially to lose to a Packer team. It's one thing you lose to the 49ers. But if you lose at home to the Packers with these
and you do make a point, but I don't think
ugly.
Being around Jerry Jones for most of the part a long time, he just doesn't do that. He might be upset, but this is an interesting guy. He doesn't throw people away. If you know, look at his coaching and the coaches he had. He really doesn't throw people away. And I think he likes what he's done.
I think he likes
Sonia, there's two sides.
personally. That's why he hung around that long.
Sonia, there's two sides to me to Jerry Jones. One, he wants to win before he dies, right? He wants to win a Super Bowl before he dies. And I think he's willing to do any. The other thing is what Jim was talking about is his loyalty, right? He'll keep coaches around for 10 years going 500. I mean, if he likes you, you're going to stay there. So
Jason
what do you
Garrett.
think? I mean, you don't, right? You don't have a dog in this fight. What do you think is going to happen if McCarthy loses to the Packers? Do they make a change? And I know him and Bill Belichick are pretty good friends.
Well, excuse me. So that's a tough question. I feel like he may, at a minimum, have a conversation with him. But to lose to the Packers of all teams, who, for all intents and purposes, have been up and down this entire season, I didn't think they would even make the playoffs, to be honest. We may see a different Jerry Jones. I mean, like you said, he's getting older. He wants to see a championship before he leaves this world. I don't think he will necessarily throw McCarthy away, but he may try to bring in another head coach and have McCarthy in a different position. Who knows?
That is firing him, Sonia. That is firing him. I don't want to hit any names.
He could demote him, but at the end of the day, it's also going to depend on what happens with Dan Quinn. There's teams out there that are in the process of being interested in interviewing him for a head coach position. So anything can happen right now. It's like, does Jerry cut him off? He probably will, because at the end of the day, he is getting older. So we may see a different Jerry Jones. And then look at what he did with Jason Garrett. We talk about he doesn't throw people away, but Garrett was with them for a while, and now he's a college.
But Garrett didn't win at the end.
Garrett at the end, they fell apart. Let me say something about Jerry Jones that people don't realize. He's not just the owner; he's the GM. He's the GM,
Well,
and if he brought in someone like Belichick, he would have to treat him differently than he did Mike McCarthy. Case in point, they gave up a 4th-round draft choice for Trey Lance, and reportedly they didn't even check with Mike McCarthy. They just made the deal and told Mike McCarthy after. If Belichick were there or Bill Parcells was still there, hypothetically, they wouldn't have made that move.
Wait a minute. Didn't Keith said that they made some moves without Belichick's stamp of approval because the owner wanted those moves to made?
What are we talking about?
On some positions. I think it was Zappy and
No, I'm talking about Jerry Jones. I don't care what Robert Kraft did.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, you're saying that Belichick couldn't put up with it. He did.
Mike McCarthy went out there and had just had his appendix rupture, so he was at least trying to give his all. The same week he had the surgery, he was back on the field.
I opened a whole can of worms here. Let's push out because we're like at 15 minutes to go here. So I want you guys' opinion now. If you're the coach, Jim, of the Philadelphia Eagles, and Brown is hurt, and Jalen Hurts' finger may be really bad, he can't throw as well as he does. You got to give the ball to Swift, right? And just hope you can run the ball all over Tampa Bay. That would be your major.
I would think so. Or you got to throw it to Goddard. And you got to and then you got Devontae Smith is back this week. I'm not a Philly fan. We all know that. I think the guy's done a nice job. And there's the toughest thing to ever do that I've ever done is be on a team that repeated winning this, they didn't win the Super Bowl, but being in the Super Bowl. And it is difficult to get back there because everything has to go right. Injuries, team continuity, and things like that. And that's what I keep telling you. I knew Philly was going to struggle because you can't have everything go right like it did last year. And that's not saying the coach is not good. That's just the reality of it.
I'm going to tell you, Jim, if the Tampa Bay Buccaneer players took a lie detector test, you guys think you have a good chance to go to the Super Bowl? They probably fail that lie detector
I would
test.
agree.
But if they took the lie detector test, whether they could beat the Eagles this game, I think most of them would feel they really can. which means which Eagle team is going to show up. I mean, can a team just turn it around? Can the Eagles just turn it around this week the way they've been playing? Because they're on a landslide going downhill.
That is true. And I think the Eagles have a lot of talent, but it is so hard because you got headstrong players, you got coaches that they really don't understand their players yet. They haven't been around them, so they don't know their ins and outs of these players. You're bringing them and trying to put them in. And, we all know A.J. Brown is headstrong. We all know that
he's not playing.
Darius Slade is headstrong, and he had issues with Patricia in Detroit. And
guys, what do you do going forward if A.J. Brown is not on the sideline for this game, rooting for his team? Does he come back next year? I can't imagine him and Sirianni coming back. There's no reason A.J. Brown can't be there with his guys. That's going to be interesting.
See, and this is what I mean. Sirianni, when he was 10-1, he was coach of the year. Everybody was talking about him possibly being coach of the year. Now we're talking about a guy getting fired. I mean, this is crazy.
As Rick said, the quick answer is gone right now. What surprises me most about the Eagles is the defensive line from last year, right? They were up there the top, if not the top in sacks, and all of a sudden they've lost whatever it is. And the way they're playing their linebackers, they're not blitzing off the edge like they should be with Reddick and that. And is it the defensive philosophy has changed? Or see, this is what confuses me about the Eagles, because if you're not going to get pressure on Baker Mayfield, who's banged up, if you're just going to go with the straight 4 and Tampa Bay gives them time and they lose, what a mistake they may put in Patricia as a defensive coordinator.
Well, Jim understands this much more than I do. No matter who the defensive coordinator is, if you've got really good players, they should play well. I know the defensive coordinator, the schemes, they do make a big difference. I'm aware of that. But if you got the players, all they have to do is really show up and play hard and do their thing, and they should be able to get by.
No, it doesn't. I wish it would work that way, but there are a lot of things in how the defensive coordinator structures the meetings, how he calls the plays, how the team reacts to the plays, because it is not when you're successful, it's when you have adversity. How does he react to adversity? Because these players look at him for leadership. And that's the thing you got to realize. I think it was a mistake, in my opinion. I know Sean Desai got demoted. I think that hurt them because now the trust factor, they don't know Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia, they know about his history, but you got people in there that play for him that don't like him.
And they brought him in, yeah.
They brought him in. And then this Desai, he came from a Chicago system, and Pack said this at the beginning of the year, that they didn't blitz that much. And they do have talent now. And like Max said, that defensive line shouldn't be playing this, but you got young players, and they have to have leadership and guidance to get them. And I know Tracy Rocker, the defensive line coach. He's a great coach, but those players have got to do it. Sometimes you got to be, as a player, make other players accountable. If you don't, these things could happen, especially with guys that big.
Sonia, you follow the South a lot. Of course, the Panthers and the Falcons are in there. Surprised that Tampa Bay is in the position they're in. And what are your thoughts about them playing the Eagles? Do you think they win that game? Do you think the Eagles just on talent beat them? And what do you think about Baker Mayfield in that big game?
So the South was a mess the entire season. It was like a crab race to the top of the barrel to see who could just claim the division. That's the only reason why Tampa Bay is in the position they're in, is because all the division was like one game apart with the exception of the Panthers. We've been in this exact same position before with the same division, with our division. And we usually get eliminated the first round, the wild card, I should say. But however, the way the Eagles have been inconsistent throughout this entire season, I really think it could be an upset, to be honest with you. I didn't really necessarily pick Tampa Bay to win outright with my picks or whatever, but I wouldn't be surprised if that could be an upset. Baker is playing with injured ribs, but he's known to wear compression over his ribs anyway, despite whether or not he was injured. They may just tape him down, give him a little couple of shots here and there to, deal with the pain, couple of Aleve or whatever, and he should be good to go. You got Mike Evans still looking amazing. Chris Godwin, that team is a complete package. They should be better than what they are anyway. They definitely shouldn't have been one game apart from the Falcons or the Saints. Maybe the Saints, definitely not the Falcons.
Well, Falcons were 7-10, and Saints and Buccaneers went both 9-8, but Buccaneers had a tiebreaker.
Yeah, so it's two games. Sorry, I got lost towards the end, Jack.
Well, there was one game. Had the Falcons won the last game, it would have been one
right,
game.
right. Like they wanted us to eliminate Tampa so one of them could have it, and Tampa won, so it was a wrap. But nonetheless, I really think they could give Philadelphia a run for their money because of the inconsistency in Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts is going to have to be more on target. He's going to have to do better about being consistent and ball protection and just making sure that his targets are getting where they need to get to. And but if they have the injury, with Brown or whoever's not out there that needs to be received, Smith's going to be probably targeted a lot. That's been their go-to. But we'll just have to see, honestly, Matt.
Jim, we talked about the Eagles having to run the ball. I think it's the same thing for Tampa Bay, right? The biggest weakness of the Eagles late in the game is if you keep running the ball and running the ball as the Cardinals did, the Giants did at the end of the game there, eventually they get tired out. And I think Tampa Bay, White is their running back, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Sean White. Yes.
He's a pretty strong guy and he's a pretty big guy. So if they continually pound on the Eagles, maybe at the end of the game, they squeak out that win.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. Their defense doesn't look the same. Fletcher Cox just, to me, does not look the same. That defense, I had them on my fantasy. They just used to look a little more intimidating. I don't know if it's because they're just so worn down because of being on the field more or what, but they just don't seem the same to me.
Well, I think Jalen Hurts' throwing hand reportedly has a broken finger, and he might not be able to grip the ball the way he does normally. That could be a big factor.
They popped it back in place. They said they popped it back in place. So we'll see.
So
you definitely don't want to bring Mariota in. You bring Mariota in, your game is done.
Yes. So what do you think? What do you think, Jim? You were defensive lineman. You know that if the offense can keep running the ball on you, you kind of get frustrated.
Yeah. It's the most depressing thing in pro football is if the offense, you saw it with Dallas and Buffalo, and you see it all the time. If you can run the ball successfully, you can win a lot of games because it takes a toll on you physically. And you can play action, you can do things. And I'm agreeing with you. I think if Tampa can run the ball successfully, they have to where Tampa at. And we talk about this is Tampa's not an easy place to play. And I know they just barely won the South, but it's still a tough place to play. It's one of those places that you go into and you can get worn down, especially if you're coming from the Northeast. And I'm not saying that's not going to happen to Philly, but they're going to get worn down a little bit because that heat and it's not extremely hot, but it's a lot warmer than when you go to a place like Tampa.
I got you,
Rick. I think you're disagreeing with more than I think you're disagreeing with more than just Sonia. I think all of us up there think that Tampa Bay might win this game. I think all of us think that there's an upset in the making. Maybe not Jack. I'm not sure, but I think
it's unpredictable. If the Eagles show up and they're just nearly as good as they were early in the year, they win this game. I mean, no doubt about it. We don't know what Eagle team we're going to get, the burdens on them. We know what we're getting with Tampa Bay. We don't know what we're getting with Philadelphia.
If I was Tampa Bay, and this is how I would think of it, because I've been in this position, is a lot playing pro sports is confidence. And what happens is if Tampa Bay gets off to a good start, like the New York Giants did, then guys get that in the back of the mind. Here we go again. And here we go again. And that's when you have the issues. That's when you have, oh, man, you're struggling, just like we always talk about. Teams struggle to make plays. They do things. You talked about Lamar Jackson. Well, what happens is they're trying to make a play to get back on top, and you lose that confidence because if you just do what you do, you're all right.
We saw that happen with Cleveland yesterday in the game.
Yeah.
They
Listen, I agree.
losing enthusiasm as the game went along. They would just be trudging off the field. There was like they didn't have that bounce to them that they had during the regular season.
That's a hard thing. That's a hard thing when you lose that confidence, because I'm gonna tell you, I've been on a 1-15 team. We didn't know how to win. We always was waiting. Well, what's gonna happen? What are we gonna do to lose the game?
Yeah,
that's just the reality of it. But when you find out how to win and how to do things, then your confidence changes.
So let's get back on the coaching carousel here a little bit. Pete Carroll was they said they parted ways, but he is going to be a senior advisor to Seattle. How long does that last, Jack? I mean, Pete Carroll loves coaching football. You can see it. He's run up and down the sidelines. He acts like he's like a 40-year-old, for God's sakes. Run up and down, chewing his gum, all excited, into his players, cheering them on. How long does that last him being just?
I don't think it lasts long at Seattle. Senior advisor, they don't have a defined position for him. In other words, they're going to give him some money. He could come around, on the surface. He's not going to make major decisions. He's not going to pick the next coach. He's not going to have any serious input on that. His situation is so much different from Bill Belichick's, and I'm not completely certain why. Because Pete Carroll's been a decorated coach, and we don't hear about him being in demand. We don't hear the media saying, where's the next spot Pete Carroll could be at? Right. His age is an issue, but for Belichick, who's about the same age, it's not an issue. I mean, there's a disparity there. It shouldn't be that way. And you get the feeling Pete Carroll would grab any coaching job anywhere.
I got 2 points.
That's why I was saying McCartney could be downgraded to a consultant for the Cowboys. He'd still be with it. When you guys were talking about him not being thrown away, he could be in the same position.
McCarthy won't be in coaching demand if he's let go. I think this might be his last stop.
Back to Pete Carroll. First of all, if you read the articles on it, he said it was not a football decision. The people who made the decision weren't football people. So that
came selling a team.
And that's the first
We're back to that.
And if I was the LA Chargers, Pete has a place in Malibu. I would hire Pete Carroll tomorrow. That might be the perfect coach for the Chargers with the energy.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that makes sense for that organization because they would need a guy like Pete Carroll. But Pete Carroll has been a good coach, but he has struggled places, the Jets, New England. So don't things like that. But I think that the Chargers would be a good place for him.
I think the defense
somewhere warm.
2 years have underachieved, and I think that was his undoing. But they were 9-8 this year. It's not like they fell apart. It was a disappointing year. They should have made the playoffs, but it still came as a big surprise to me. He was let go.
Yeah, but he was let go not because of his age. It was because, like I told you, they're going to sell the team. I don't know who they're going to sell it to, but the decision, it wasn't made. He said it wasn't made by football.
But how do they benefit getting rid of Pete Carroll? Because he's a name coach. If you're selling the team, I would think it would help in the sale that the
you would think so, but it's still going to be it doesn't really matter. Look at the Washington Commanders. They sold for billions of dollars. He brought it for under $1 billion. And Seattle's going to sell for billions. And maybe they have a buyer already.
We don't know. We'll find that out as we go along. You mentioned Pete Carroll going to San Diego, going to the Chargers to play with the Chargers. But will the Chargers take him over Bill Belichick if they have an option to get him? I don't think so.
That's a good question.
But and like I said, everything really is up in the air when we come to these coaching to the coaching carousel. We talked that Sirianni may lose his job, possible. Not probable. Same thing with McCarthy. McCarthy has done a really good job for Dallas. I think it's possible he leaves. I don't think it's probable. I don't know who's better out there than maybe Bill Belichick. Maybe Bill Belichick. Is he going to go play a coach in Dallas? I don't know. He's not going to get the power, as Jack said. So maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. He was willing to give up power to New England. So, who knows what Bill Belichick's thinking right now. So to me, that's pretty interesting too. One thing I've seen again today in Vegas is they're keeping Antonio Pierce. The players are actually saying they're not going to play for the Raiders, their defensive end, and that are not going to play for the Raiders if they get rid of Antonio Pierce. This is the first time I've heard, Sonia, of the players holding the owner hostage. This is the first time I've heard of this.
I don't know if you guys remember, but if I didn't say it on here, I said it on one of my shows that I felt like something like this would happen. I didn't think it would be, doable. But if you're talking about a lot of players saying, hey, I'm not going to play for anyone else, that's pretty strong. I talked about, basically from day one, how he took control of the locker room, how even Devontae Adams had been his number one cheerleader. How they, won a few games off just the energy alone, I think was enough to change the mental out there. And I even said, I felt like a lot of players would not want to play for anyone else. And that if they were smart, they would go ahead and make sure they consider him for their head coach, just because, that Raiders organization in a nutshell is just kind of different. But, the Titans were interested in interviewing Antonio Pierce for their head coaching position. I don't even know if I think they may have talked to him. I don't know if they have or not, but I remember that coming up. But, I think it's a great match. I think this is what the Raiders need. I'm sure the city of Las Vegas is hyped. He seems to have a great energy from the West Coast already. So, they have their own vibe. And then he's extremely intelligent with his play calling. So
Guys,
I can see the Raiders turn around.
I don't want to hear that he turned things. Josh McDaniels was terrible. Antonio Pierce did a decent job. As far as the players not playing, sure, they're going to sit out and they're going to retire. Give me a break.
To come in and clean up behind Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Antonio Pierce the long-term solution? I would give him.
I don't know about that, but give him a couple years. Yeah.
If Jim Harbaugh is going to come to the Raiders, you mean to tell me, no, you're not going to hire Jim Harbaugh if the money's not an issue because you want to keep Antonio Pierce? No way.
But
that's only the consideration with Tom Brady's connection. That's pretty much all that is.
Here's the thing. Antonio Pierce did a very good job in a short period of time.
That's what I'm saying. Cleaning up behind McDaniels.
All agree on that. But the problem is over the long term. Can he be successful over the long term? And that's they just lost their coach to the Giants. But you have to look at the long term. And I think that he is going to be the head coach of the Raiders. But we saw that he could do things. But sometimes it's all about what is he going to do over a season. And that's the thing you got to realize. I think he did a nice job in that short. But McDaniels, just as you guys have said, was awful. He didn't connect.
They were so happy to move on from McDaniels. Antonio Pierce, they were thrilled to have him. He was one of the guys.
I said it was the emotional.
He did a good job. But is he the guy going forward? That's the question.
I think Jack makes a great point. What happens if they can get Harbaugh? What happens if they can get Belichick? I mean, are they going to not pick these so they stick with Antonio Pierce? That would be crazy. I don't care if the whole team wants to leave. That's fine. Go someplace somewhere else. I just think this is a time that's going to be very unique. You have a chance to get Harbaugh. You have a chance to get Belichick, and we got Pete Carroll, one of the best coaches in Seattle Seahawks history, sitting there on the sideline too. I mean, this may never happen again, Jim. So do you say, okay? I mean, what do you do?
No,
you gotta wait, right?
And I'm not saying that. don't get me wrong, Antonio Prayers did a tremendous job in that short period
Yeah,
of time.
I agree.
And he could be
I agree.
a head coach, but then you're gonna have to. That's why it's taking so long, because they could have named him any day. Is they got to really examine this.
I agree.
What direction are we headed with this organization? And
I think the main issue is you're going to have a repeat of the Steve Wilkes situation in Carolina. Right now, we had the same thing in Carolina. Steve got us 4 or 5 wins. The fans wanted him. The players liked him. And then he was interviewed twice, but for some reason or another, because he was brought back for a second interview, they did not choose him. Now, every single game we lost on every page out there, that's all you see. Would this have happened if we had at least given Steve Wilkes an opportunity a year or two?
He could have had that job had they not faltered down the stretch when he was the interim coach. Had they won the division that they were in a position to, at that point, if you got rid of Steve Wilkes, it would have been a major mistake. He did okay, Steve Wilkes. He didn't, bowl him over as an interim coach. You better be lights out if you want to get the job.
We had lost.
Okay. You're interim coach for a reason. You're just filling the seat for the time being. That's what an interim coach
Let me ask you this question. What is the best job out there available right now for a head coach? If you're in the position to be a head coach, what job would you take right now?
Right now, at this moment,
Yeah.
Jim, the Chargers. At this moment, the Chargers.
Yeah, Chargers. They have a
Yes.
quarterback.
Yeah. And they got impact
That's
players
the-
on defense.
And no one's talking
And
about
talent.
where does Mike Vrabel go? No one's even talking about him. Where
Like,
is
which
Mike
is the
Vrabel?
worst
That's a great
job?
point.
Which is the worst job, head coaching job that's vacant to take
Well, we
right
all
now?
know. We already know.
Now
the
that New
worst job would
England's
be
off
Carolina.
the table, yeah, we don't want him.
Rub
We
it
don't
in.
want him.
So
We
You
don't
don't want
okay,
Vrabel in
so-
Carolina?
Vrabel's
Tennessee isn't that attractive there. Yeah, I mean,
He finished.
I-
Mike Vrabel finished at 542 over the last 6 seasons for Tennessee. Why would we want a coach that barely finished just a coach above 500?
I don't. I'll be honest with you, Sonia. I don't. To be honest with you, I don't blame Vrabel for that. He didn't get rid of A.J. Brown. He didn't draft them players that you got over on Tennessee right now. I don't blame Vrabel for that.
Yeah.
Vrabel, from what I understand, everybody says he's a great football mind and a great
Yeah.
coach. So
He can come to
went-
Atlanta.
I said
He
that.
can come to Atlanta. He can come to Atlanta because he
That's
has
what I
that
think.
connection with Kirby,
what
is it Kirby Smart and all of them, and they all
Yes.
go back to Sabanism school, so he can come
I
to
agree.
Atlanta.
That's what
I
I
would
think.
I would take him in Carolina. I think he'd be good in Carolina. That's just my opinion.
I think our
Well, I
O-line is
think- I
so
agree.
horrendous. We don't have a lot to work with right now.
I
But
agree with
even
Sonia. I think-
regardless of you getting, you're still gonna have to get people, and you don't have the draft picks. You're gonna basically have to get them in free agency, which is always
Jim, go suit up and go down there and play for my team for us, please.
Sonia, let me just go back to Steve Wilkes for 1 second. Keeping him obviously would have been better than hiring Frank Reich if we want to do revisionist thinking. But the reason Frank Reich was selected as the coach was to develop Bryce Young. Supposedly Reich's this great quarterback guru, and it didn't work out. But that was the reason, that move was
Well, let's
made.
be clear. Let's be clear. The general manager Federline and Wright both wanted C.J. Stroud. Only the owner, Tepper, wanted Bryce Young. So you bring someone in that head coach is already thinking, I'm gonna get this other person. It's already gonna be like an issue from the beginning.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah,
Wait, let's
yeah.
say they did draft C.J. Stroud. How would the Panthers have been this year? Would C.J. Stroud have been nearly as good as he turned out to be with you?
That's
I
the-
think
no,
that's-
I don't think so.
That's what
Bryce
I-
Young
don't-
went to the Texans and C.J. Stroud to the Panthers. What would have been?
That's
That's-
$1 million question.
Wait,
I'm going to tell you,
wait. Everybody's talking over everybody. I don't know what anybody's saying. Please wait your turn. I get you get excited. Wait your turns. I don't want to mute nobody this show. Wait your turns, and everybody state their case. Jack likes to stir things up, and we all know that. So listen, CJ Stroud is a better quarterback than Bryce Young, hands down. I know that, and I think everybody knows that now. I don't know what Bryce Young will be in the future. I don't even know if he'll be with Carolina. We'll find out as it goes along, because I think the team hurts him there. So we'll find that as we go along. I do think Jim likes Bryce Young. I think everybody else here likes Bryce Young as a quarterback. I have my doubts still. We'll see what happens, right? Is that fair to say?
And it is fair to say, but you got to look at it. Look at what C.J. Stroud is, the organization he's in, and the head coach, DeMarco Ryan, and he's done a tremendous job. They do have talent at Houston. He's surrounded by more talent than Bryce Young.
I agree.
Basically saying that Bryce Young is terrible in there, but look at the talent. They gave their best receiver away. They would have had the overall #1 pick. They gave a lot away from them. They're struggling in the offensive line. They do have potential, but Bryce Young was in a worse situation than C.J. Stroud walked into. And let's be honest.
Jack had asked me before we kind of got like all over each other. Jack had asked me, you know, because I'm the one bearing the blunt of this pain down here. But I felt exactly what Jim was saying. That's exactly why the same thing. CJ Stroud in our organization, he still would have been good because he's CJ Stroud. But I don't think he would have been I'm pretty sure he would not have been as successful as he is in Texas because, like Jim said, we've given away so many weapons that we had to assist him that he would have been a standalone down there in Carolina.
So, Jack, to you, would it be smart to the Panthers to trade Bryce Young to get some draft picks? Would that be a good move on their part?
I mean, what can you logically get for Bryce Young? Can you get a late #1 draft pick? Perhaps the team will still have confidence in Bryce Young. I mean, I think the situation with my Jets with Zach Wilson, who's been in the league 3 years, maybe they get a 4th-round pick for him. But I think the fear that these teams have, if you move on from a guy and he succeeds elsewhere, you look really, really bad. And the people who drafted him, their job becomes in jeopardy. They have a lot of explaining to do. We were talking about the Belichick situation. Belichick's downfall in part was because Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay and won a Super Bowl. If Tom Brady played terribly for the Buccaneers, the great Bill Belichick wouldn't have taken as big a hit as he did. If you're the Panthers, you have to stick with Bryce Young. It's 1 year. Come on, guys. 1 year.
Yeah.
Let's develop him. Your biggest fear, Mac, would you agree with this with Bryce Young, his durability? You were scared he'd get injured. If nothing else, he showed he's durable.
Well, I agree with that. But that's not my only concern about Bryce Young. I just don't know how good he is. I don't know because he really hasn't had a chance. He hasn't had a chance, Jim, really to be on a team to show how good he is. All right, he doesn't have any talent. He doesn't have an offensive line. The defense doesn't help him out at all. So I really don't know what Bryce Young is yet. I don't think the Panthers know what Bryce Young is really yet. Maybe it was a great draft pick. Maybe the owner's right. I don't know. I think it's going to take at least 2-3 years to find that out. Will the Panthers owner wait 3 years to build a team on Bryce Young? I don't know.
Let me tell you something about this, especially with quarterbacks. Sometimes you take a quarterback high and he falters because of what's around him. And then sometimes he's just not that good. There's other issues in his life. Bryce Young doesn't have a lot of issues, and he likes football. And that's what I'm telling you. This guy's going to be pretty good if they put the right people around him. If he gets the right people in coaching and players, this guy's got a chance. You got to remember, he came from a powerhouse, obviously, in Alabama. And he had great
so did Mac Jones. Sonia,
this guy's better than Mac Jones.
Let me ask you a question, Sonia, because you're closest to the team. Will your owner be patiently waiting to see if the Panthers build a team in 3 years? I don't think he will. What do you think?
The fans are going to want him to because we sold the farm to get this gentleman. We gave away like so many good players, and we're not getting any picks to replace them. You talking about angry fans? If Tepper does not wait this out and get the team to build around Bryce and does the opposite, I can't even tell you the outrage it's going to spark. Like we're already in a position that we feel like we brought Bryce in and then sold the farm, and then the team, the offense, everybody's bad on it except the water boy on this team. And and I've always told everyone, Tepper is not a sports-oriented manager, not in my opinion. He's a business mogul, and that's it. He uses his money to buy things. He's already tanked the soccer team that he has in Charlotte. They fire every few months, someone's fired. So I don't see him having the patience to hang on for another 2 years. And it's sad. It's really sad. I literally just considered that when you were talking about it.
But here's
Jack should know that feeling, because that's what they've done to the Jets for the last how many years. They don't wait. They get rid of their coaches. They get rid of the GM. They get rid of their quarterbacks that they draft, and they keep doing the same thing over and over again. And if they don't stick with Saleh, the same thing's going to happen again with the Jets.
Let me ask you.
I think part of it, owners don't want to be proven to be wrong. They don't want to look bad. Look what happened with Al Davis. He insisted a while back, that the Raiders draft Jamarcus Russell. Lane Kiffin, the head coach, didn't want to. And Al Davis stuck with Jamarcus Russell a while. You don't want to look bad. And that's why with Tepper, with Bryce Young, he's going to want to milk this out as far as it could go until it's conclusive that Bryce Young couldn't be his guy. He's going to bring in a coach, and the coach's number one job is going to be to develop Bryce Young, get him going, okay? And it's going to be a tough job.
I think he gives them this year, and that's going to probably be a different conversation next year this time.
Yeah, but here's the thing you guys don't realize. Do you realize what we're talking about? 2 years ago, what was the worst organization in football, in the pro football?
The Texans.
The Texans. And their owner didn't know what he was doing, McNair, and they were just awful. This thing can happen in Carolina. They can change it. They can change the narrative if they do. You got to
bring. They don't have the draft choices Houston has. Houston went 2 and 3. They
but here's the thing. Where did Larry Tunsil come from? Larry Tunsil came from Miami.
Right.
They traded for him. If you have the right personnel people, you can change this narrative. Right now, they got to get the most important thing, obviously, is getting a coach, but they got to have the right GM. They got to have the right personnel, because he's going to have a lot of work ahead of them. And they got to make sure they make the right choices.
Listen, I again, the last thing I'll say on this is I don't know what Bryce Young is yet. And I think it's going to take some time to find out what he is till you get some people around him. Let's talk a little bit about defensive coordinators. Listen, a couple defensive coordinators went and did the Houston's head coach did a great job over there. Arizona's head coach did a pretty good job with a bad Arizona team. Wink Martindale is out from the Giants, walks out disgusted, mad, swearing. He's not in the official Giants club anymore. He's done with the Giants. So Wink Martindale, pretty good defensive coordinator. Where do you think he ends up, Jim?
I don't know, but you got some situations with him, because from my understanding, and you probably are closer to the situation, is that he basically took the defense and separated them. He wanted to run the defense and tried to take power away from the ball, and you can't do that. And here's the thing. What did John Harbaugh let Wink Martindale go? He must have knew it. Something was not, right in there. And then you see Harbaugh brought in, obviously, one of his brother's coaches to do it. So there's something that we don't know. And I don't know.
That is a great point about John Harbaugh.
Huh?
That is a great point that I never thought about. Why would John Harbaugh move on from this defensive whiz?
There's something, and I'm not saying that Bart Dill, I'm not talking, but there's something going on that we don't know, because a lot of times when they do that, and I know, and Rick is right.
You're correct. So Jack, is this Buddy Ryan 2.0? I mean, is this Buddy Ryan and his sons with the Chicago Bears? I mean, is this the same situation? Does Wink Martindale go and get a head coaching job somewhere?
Well, Rex Ryan was a great defensive whiz. His brother wasn't as good. Why not Rex Ryan? He's out there as a defensive coordinator. If he take it, I don't get it.
He sure looks like he's trying to come back too.
He knows defense.
Yeah, he does.
What's interesting?
As long as you keep everybody's feet covered, you're good.
The team that's Wink Martindale would actually help the most, I think, would be the Philadelphia Eagles, who are really floundering on defense, bringing in Matt Patricia.
That's interesting you say that. I would think Jacksonville, Jack.
Yeah, the Jags as well. I mean, Doug Peterson seems to have control of that team, even though they faltered down the stretch. You know, you need a head coach with, you know, who doesn't feel threatened by a coordinator. You can't feel that way. I mean, Mike Shanahan, who won a couple of Super Bowls as a Denver Bronco coach, he was let go as a coordinator by Dan Reeves because Dan Reeves felt he was kind of coordinating with John Elway, you know, kind of behind his back a little. The head coach can't feel he's being betrayed in any way, shape, or form by a coordinator. He can't feel undercut. That's the worst thing.
Well, the ball wasn't actually mad that they wanted to do what they. It's just that they didn't inform him. Just let him know what they were doing. It's not like he said they can't do it. It was just let me know what you're doing. I got to know. I'm the one who's going to answer the questions at the podium, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that was his biggest concern.
That's exactly right.
That.
Yeah.
So let's start our picks. We'll break them down. Tell the people out there what we think and why and all that good stuff. So we got Green Bay going into Dallas, 7.5 underdogs. Dallas scores a lot at home, and their defense plays a lot better at home than they do on the road. You know, I think Jordan Love is going to be seeing a lot of pressure coming at that young quarterback. They're going to try and confuse him. I think that Dak has a big game. CeeDee Lamb has a big game. And I also think that the only way that Green Bay has a chance at winning this game, Jim, is if Aaron Jones is the major part of their offense and they tried to keep the ball away from Dak.
I 100% agree because Aaron Jones has had some great days. He's Texas, he's El Paso. He's an El Paso kid. He's a Texas kid, and he plays well against the Cowboys. And they do have it, and they've gotten better as the year progressed. And Green Bay has. I told you a long time I like Jordan Love. Now, here's the thing that's going to happen is Jordan Love out of the pocket is not as effective as Jordan Love in the pocket. And that's going to be something to look at. And that's the thing. He doesn't move as well as people think. He's not like he's pinpoint and he has some injuries in his wide receiver core. So this will be an interesting matchup.
It showed them trying to. It showed another team pushing Jordan Love to his left. He has a hard time throwing the ball across his body to his left. A lot of teams do, but a lot of quarterbacks do, but especially Jordan Love. They try to get him out of the pocket to his left. Jack, what do you think? I mean, do you think that will Dallas? I mean, I think you think Dallas will probably run away with this, don't you?
I think they'll win decisively, but if Green Bay can slow the game down from the start, you know, establish the running game with Aaron, Jones, and just have time of possession on their side. Yeah, I mean, if they're hanging around at the end, anything could happen. I don't look for Jordan Love to really have a big game in this spot. He might perform competently, but you can't run on Dallas, but they're pretty good in the secondary. Stephen Gilmore, I think, should have a good game, and they should be fine, Dallas. They'll come out them on offense, Dallas, early.
Yeah, but we hadn't talked about this, but Jair Alexander, their number one cornerback, is possibly not playing this game because of injuries. He hurt the hand.
It's questionable. They normally play, though. That's from my experience.
And is Stephen Gilmore playing for sure? Because I know he has gotten
he's definitely playing. Yeah. They don't have anybody on the injury list now. Okay. And Tyler Smith is playing, which is unusual at this point in the year. I can't understand that.
I'm concerned about Dallas's running game. Pollard's never made it all the way back.
He's getting better in the last couple of weeks. And he's not, the answer, but he's done better. And they use Turpin in the backfield.
So does anybody think that Green Bay stays in with the 7.5 that 7.5 points, or is there anybody in here that thinks that right now?
I think Dallas wins by like 15 points.
I think it's going to be
Dallas
wins by 7. So
what's the weather going to be like?
It doesn't matter.
So
they're
it's
gonna close.
so it's seven. So it's seven. It's seven.
Weather's
playing it
never
at-
back in Texas.
We're playing, Jim. We're playing it at 7.5. So you're going to take Green Bay as the underdog?
No, I'm gonna take Dallas to win it. They have to win by 8. So
Right. Sonia?
I don't think they cover the point spread, but I think Dallas will win.
Okay, so you got Green Bay.
No, I
Moving the
don't.
points.
I'm picking Dallas to
Green Bay with
win.
the points, right?
Dallas to win, but you don't think they'll cover. You think Green Bay stays
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the
You're
yeah.
7.5?
taking Green Bay with 7.5
we
points.
do point
Oh,
spreads.
yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm being funny, guys.
Okay, all right. I listen. I got Dallas too. I think Linda has. What does Linda have here? Linda, what do you got? Dallas. You got Dallas. So Linda also has Dallas. So pretty much the only one going with Green Bay here, besides Keith and Pags. Pags has got Green Bay also. So Sonia and Pags has Green Bay. So it doesn't look too good for you, Sonia. That's all I can tell you.
But no, so wait, Max. So if I pick Green Bay, that's going to be my underdog, and I don't want that.
You can
So
pick
just
more
give
than
me
one
Dallas.
underdog. Oh, yeah. You can pick more than one underdog.
You
So
can have
don't worry about it.
No,
Yes,
Dallas
you
is
can
going
have
to
more
win the
than one
game.
winner.
Scratch out my point commentary. Just go ahead
Oh,
and give me
my
Dallas.
Oh my God! All right. I was going to say something. I would
Don't be
offend a lot.
mean.
I would offend a lot of. I would offend a lot of women right now if I was going to say what I
I'm
was
being
thinking.
nice.
So
You see my hearty.
okay, all right. The Rams at Detroit. You've got Matt Stafford going back to Detroit, and it'll be something if he wins the game in Detroit. I think the Detroit fans will welcome him back, but they definitely don't want him to win. It's the big trade that happened, right? We had Goff, and because he was a younger version of Stafford, and Stafford goes to Super Bowl and wins where Goff didn't. So all that aside, Jim, who do you got winning that game, and or who's covering? What's going to happen there?
This is a tough game to pick because I've coached against Goff since college, and I've always liked Jared Goff. I've always thought Stafford was a stats guy. I know he won a Super Bowl with the Rams, but he does have 2 good receivers. He has a Pro Bowl running back, and that defense is improved as the year progressed. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Rams are going to upset.
Okay, LA Rams. Jack, it's not just the quarterbacks in this; it's also the running backs and the defenses. The Rams have a good running back in Williams. The Lions have 2 good running backs and playing right now. Who do you like?
Yeah, I just want to correct. Stafford is more than a stats guy. He's always been an elite quarterback who's been on terrible teams. We can overlook a guy like Megatron and call him a great receiver, not a stats guy, but a quarterback we call a stats guy. It's a bit unfair to me. I think he's a difference maker in a game like this. Stafford has the weapons here in LA, and the reason they made the playoffs this year, in large part, was because of Stafford's leadership. They didn't have too good a team going into the season. We thought conceivably they'd have one of the worst teams. I think they go into Detroit, they win a thriller field goal at the end against the Lions, something like 25-22. The Rams beat the Lions.
So you got the Rams winning that game. Joel Hunt's with us from Military Broadcast Radio. We do have a new show from him on before us called Turnbuckles and Stogies. We're a very entertaining show. They sit around, they smoke cigars and talk wrestling. So if you like entertaining show, if you like wrestling, and if you like cigars, this is the show for you. But it was very entertaining. I was watching it anyway. So
Ram kicking game is a concern, even though I'm picking him.
Joe, I just want to tell Joe, I have the iron claw, and I've always used it when I got in danger. He'll know what I mean.
So there you, all right. So Joe knows what he's talking about. Back to the game. Sonia, what do you think? Is this the year for Detroit to? I mean, if Detroit gets knocked out, they were expected to go and be their top seed. They're supposed to be up there maybe in the championship. So, and the Rams, we didn't think were going to happen, as Jack said. So, what do you think is going to happen here?
This is going to be a tough one to call. If you think about the last 5 meetings that they've had, the Los Angeles has 3 wins versus Detroit in their last 5 matchups. Los Angeles also has 130 points that they've compiled while only surrendering 107. So you look at all of that when you try to come up, but this is playoff time. I think Dan Campbell is about his business. I think he really is trying to just get the win. I've got Detroit in Detroit. Even though Matt Stafford's going home, I feel like he's going to be welcome, but I think they said some of the fans was wearing his number but crossing his name out. So we'll see. Looks like I'm going for DC and the Roaring Lions on this one.
All right, I think Linda's going with you. She's also got Detroit. I'm looking at the Rams too. I like the story. I like the two young receivers. I think their defense is still a good defense. I expect maybe a couple sacks. Not only did the old guy in there, but they got a young guy that looks like the old guy on the defensive line. So I do like I do like the Rams defense there. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to swing with you guys and go with the Rams too. We do have the Pittsburgh and Buffalo amongst all the controversy there. Of course, Buffalo's playing at home. I don't know what the wind's going to be like. I don't know if it's still going to be snowing or not. I have no idea what's going to be happening Monday afternoon. They're kind of a weird game for Monday while people may be working and stuff. They'll be playing. So what do you think, Jack? I mean,
it's MLK.
What?
Martin Luther King Day is Monday.
Right.
So
That's good point.
I mean, Pittsburgh is a cold weather city, so I don't think the Steelers are necessarily going to be so shook up going to Buffalo and facing the frigid conditions. But what's going to hurt the Steelers, their quarterback on defense, their franchise defensive players out, TJ Watt. That is a major, major loss for them, and it's going to give Josh Allen more time to do his thing. And I just see Buffalo, everything aligned there. Pittsburgh has to be a little emotionally drained making the playoffs the way they did. I look for Buffalo to ramp and win something like 30-13.
Wow. Linda agrees with you.
In the snow.
What do you think? What do you think, Jim? I mean, the physicality part of it is
I think Buffalo will win, but I'm not in the points are 10 points, correct?
Yeah, 9. Well, 9. We got 9.5. Close enough.
9.5.
We got to win by 10.
I don't think Buffalo covers. I think they'll win the game, so I'm taking Pittsburgh to cover because of the weather and just being in the snow and the wind and stuff. It's going to be hard to throw, and I think Pittsburgh is pretty good against the run, and they can run the ball right now with their two running backs.
Did you hear the Buffalo Bill organizations offering fans $20 an hour to shovel snow? How cheap they are! $20 an hour with all their money. It should be up to
when I was there, they
an
do
hour.
it for free. That was crazy.
It should be 50 an hour. Shoveling snow is a hard job. Come on,
Jack. It was updated. They're also offering all the food you can eat for free. So $20.
When are you going to eat? While you're shoveling snow, you're going to take a break? I mean,
you get breaks, Jack. You get breaks.
They're it's not like it's it's not like they have to.
Why not free tickets? You shovel snow, you get free tickets for shoveling. Fans would like that more.
Jack, you'd be surprised at how many people come.
They probably already have fans that have the tickets.
You mean, Jim, when you played at Buffalo, if you in the house, fans would have shoveled your driveway so you could pull out to get to the game?
I had 4 kids. I made them the shovel, but no, they volunteer. I'll tell you something about Buffalo real quick. Is that we couldn't fly into Buffalo because of the snow one time, and we had to spend the night in Niagara Falls after a game, and our cars were covered with snow. By the time the next day, fans just came out and shoveled all our cars out so we could get out. That's just Buffalo. It's just Buffalo. I mean, I appreciated that, and they made sure that everything was taken care of, and it was a bad snowstorm that time.
Amazing.
Oh, by the way, I did read where Jordan Love did help somebody out of the snow too that was stuck in a snow.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Good for him. Sonia, what's your pick there? Buffalo with the points Or are you going to take Pittsburgh, staying underneath the 9.5?
So I'm taking Buffalo, but it's like split, like what Jim said. I don't think it's going to be that much of a score with this type of game with the wind elements.
So,
but I've got
who you take?
I've got the Bills. I'm picking the Bills. I know that Watt is out injured. I just don't think it's going to be a high scoring game like what Jack was saying though. 30-13. That's going to be kind of.
I want to make sure I got this right because you confuse me with what you say. Are you taking Pittsburgh to keep it under 9.5? Are you taking Pittsburgh with the points? Or are you going to take Buffalo beating Pittsburgh by more than 10?
I'm just kidding. Just give the points. Pittsburgh with the points.
All right.
You mean wait?
I know what
you're
saying.
Sonia, I have a feeling a year and a half from now, you're going to do what Jim's doing, and you're going to say to Mac, oh, I didn't know you meant us to make our picks on the point system. You're driving Mac crazy. Mac cannot be more clear about these things.
So sorry.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you.
I'm just learning point spreads. I told you guys I'm learning, but okay.
That is the first time that Jack has stood up for me in like a year. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate.
I know what
tiny hand clap
now, and I have to make it clear what I'm doing. And you heard what I said.
Let me just write it down like I did last week and read from my notes, and then that way you guys are happy with me.
Please, because other than that, I'm still not sure who you're picking. So anyway, I got. I'm picking. I'm going to go. I think I'm going with Pittsburgh also with the points. I think Pittsburgh can run the ball well. Buffalo is good against the pass, not as good against the run. I think Buffalo has a decent running game, but it's a different type of back. Cook is more of a jumper and a slasher, where the Pittsburgh running back's going to run you over, and they still got that changeup. Running back there too can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I'm going to take Pittsburgh. I think they could possibly upset Buffalo. I don't think they will. If they get a couple interceptions, hey, listen, if Josh Allen gets a little nutty, throws a couple of interceptions, Pittsburgh's got this game. So I'm definitely going to take Pittsburgh with the points here. Yes, Pittsburgh with the points. And Linda, who the hell you got over here? Bills. Linda goes with the Bills. Linda doesn't care about anything I just said here, which she normally doesn't care about anything I say anyway. So she's taking the Bills right there. So anyway, let's see. We've got Rick chiming in. You're never going to live this down, Jim, even with your buddy Byron. I don't know what that means, but I guess you're in trouble.
I got the Bills winning, Rick. But
you got
the Steelers are going to cover.
Let me ask Mac a question. Mac, who's a bigger homer? Jim for the Cowboys or Pax for the Eagles?
It's a good question. It's a good question.
You can think it over. You don't have to answer now.
You always pick the Jets, and the Jets lose, Matt.
I think that Jim is a little more realistic. He'll say when Dallas has a bad game or that they might get beat or they're not going to cover. I think he's just a little more realistic where Pags is just totally over the top. He said that the Eagles are going to steamroll Tampa Bay. They're going to win like 32-6.
Yeah, he used those exact words too. Steamroll.
Yes. So I mean, he's going to steamroll Tampa Bay. So I mean, he loves his Eagles. I think. Yes, he does. So we're down to the last game as we were just talking about Philadelphia against Tampa Bay. Philadelphia, more talented team overall, I would think. Their defensive line, again, they're not really blitzing and helping that defensive line out. Tampa Bay does have a good offensive line. People don't realize that. Tampa Bay can block, does keep people off Baker. They do open the hole for the running backs for White. I mean, they do have a good offensive line. I think that Tampa Bay's quarterback, Baker Mayfield, has got to play really well and not turn the ball over. He's had a problem with that this year. So running, little play action, hit the tight end. Goodwin's a good receiver. And, of course, Evans is a great wide receiver against that defensive secondary of the Eagles, which they have had problems with again this year. This year, not again, because last year they had a pretty good defensive secondary. So, I think Tampa Bay squeaks one out here, guys. I really do. I think Tampa Bay can, as long as they get up quick, I think they got a shot at beating Philadelphia. What do you think, Jim?
I agree with you. I think Tampa Bay has some things going in their way as far as The running game, we talked about that earlier in the show, Rachaad White. And I think defensively, their secondary is pretty good at Tampa Bay. I think their secondary. And without A.J. Brown playing, that puts a lot of pressure on Devontae Smith, guarded. And there's one more receiver that they have. But I think that
Julio
Swift
Jones.
is – huh?
Julio Jones.
Julio
Jones is the other.
Yeah, but I think Swift is going to get some yardage, but I just think that Tampa Bay is going to win this game. And the reason is not because Jack is close to Tampa today. So
Jack had a shot to go to this game, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and he said,
yeah, I came down with COVID 3 weeks ago, so still some after effects. So I figured, let me sit it out, watch it. It's not as appealing a game. I thought it was going to be the Cowboys originally going to Tampa, and I was kind of a little psyched. The way the Eagles have been playing, the burden of proof is on them. If the Eagles show up, they're going to win the game. They're flat out better. I watched the Carolina game against Tampa Bay last week, and that was even bigger than a playoff game for the Buccaneers because they needed that to win the division. So even if they lose in the first round of the playoffs, they could say they were division winners. 9-0. I mean, and the Panthers basically had 2 touchdowns called back. One where the ball was fumbled leaning over the line. The other, a running play that they scored on was called back because the receiver on the other side of the field was offside. A ludicrous penalty. Then an easy missed field goal. 17 points the Panthers left on the board. They should actually won that game.
And
so the Buccaneers win 9-0. It looks good on paper. Baker Mayfield didn't look good. Even Jimmy Johnson said halftime he'd like to see Baker Mayfield look a little better because he's playing for a contract or this or that. And I'm going to go halfway on this. If the Eagles showed up in the form they were maybe earlier this season, I know they won some close games. If the real Eagle team shows up, they win going away. I think they're going to win something like 27-11. At some point in the game, like Jim was referring to this, the Eagles are going to kind of get some confidence back. They'll get a touchdown and things will kind of snowball a little in their favor. And I'm going to pick them to win like around 27-16.
So Jim, Jack's talking for you right now. Jack's not considering that Jalen Hurts' finger is messed up. He's not going to be able to throw the ball that well. They're going to key on the running. They're going to key on the running game and try to stop Swift from having a big game. Goddard. I mean, they're going to be all over Goddard. Also, the only one that could have a big game here, I think, is Smith, and we'll see if Hurts can even get him the ball deep. I don't know if he can even do that. So,
and we don't know that.
What do you? Yeah,
I'm going with.
So what do you?
I'm with you. Jack is on his own. Hey, you know how Jack is. He goes his own way. He doesn't listen.
Mac, Pax was telling us there's no dissension in the Eagle locker room, that the birds are ready to roll, according to Pax. And Pax has the inside info.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure does.
Pax in that locker room every day.
I think Pags has the only insight he has is with his super fan club there with Captain Jack and Sneaky G. That's where he's got the insight. I don't know about in the Eagles Eagles thing. And Rick, being with Jack is a terrible place to be right now. I
yeah,
Rick.
And that's unusual for you, Rick.
If you can avoid that at any cost, I would do that. Sonia,
but no.
Pick in here. Okay,
go ahead, Jack.
Good, Sonia, we're gonna get your pick in here.
Yeah, I think Tampa's gonna do it. I know they struggled against Carolina. We were penalized. We left even a third touchdown on the board, Jack, to be honest, because there was a pick that we just didn't even get. The defense just let it go. But I think at that point, Tampa is not going to play the same as they're going to play in this wild card. You're going to see a different Tampa because they know this is all or nothing at this point, for real. And like everyone else is talking about Jalen Hurts' finger being messed up. I know they said they pop it back into place, but at the end of the day, between that and having basically one solid receiver, I know you guys talk about Julio Jones, but I'm not sold on him. He was here in Atlanta. He's been with Tampa Bay. He's not the same Julio we saw with those side catches and the turf toe before all that. He's just chasing a ring at this point. I feel like Tampa Bay is going to pull up the upset.
Okay, so Sonia's with me and Linda on Tampa Bay. Rick, you were an offensive lineman. Calm down. I don't know what happened to you. Offensive linemen are supposed to be smart, Rick. That's what I heard about them. Right now, you're acting like one of them knucklehead cornerbacks. But anyway, no, Rick, I'm just kidding with you. So now we've all heard that Cleveland was the most dangerous team. Nobody wants to face the Rams. Nobody wants to. Who to you, Jim, right now is the most dangerous team that no one wants to play that is left?
San Francisco. The 49ers. I'm just being honest.
I think that's a favorite. I think everybody feels they're a dangerous team. I'm talking about
if you want a dangerous team other than San Francisco, you would have to look like I think Baltimore will beat the Texans, but the Texans are a dangerous team.
That is very, very opposite of what you just said there. I think that
No. I think Baltimore will win, but you never know. The Texans, Ryan has got them playing really well. You got to give the guy credit. And I'm just saying,
I give him Coach of the Year, Rookie of the Year, maybe the MVP for Stroud. Who knows? Jack, who do you like? Who's your most?
I mean, what do you interpret as dangerous? Because the Kansas City Chiefs going into the playoffs, no one was really expecting them to repeat. They were struggling. They beat the Dolphins yesterday. I could see them going to Buffalo, assuming Buffalo beats Pittsburgh, and winning at Buffalo. And guess what? They're in the AFC Championship game for the 5th year in a row. That's scary. They know what it takes. Those guys know what it takes.
That is
and
true.
Once they've regrouped and they've gotten it together, I mean, I would be nervous playing them. If I'm the Ravens, even if I'm at home against Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, Kansas City has mystique. That's something that the Ravens don't have. They've been there several times before. They're not going to be fazed by the moment. They're not going to be nervous like you guys are saying, oh, Lamar Jackson, can he win the big game? Kansas City knows they can win the big game.
Playoff experience. I agree. That's a very, very scary thing. There's a lot of teams that in the past, Jim, that weren't as good as the other teams talent-wise, but their experience at home winning in the playoffs kind of pushed them over the top. So we'll see what happens.
Jim mentions the mental thing, the confidence, and I brought this up to Jim in the past when he played the 2 Super Bowls against the Buffalo Bills. Jim won't like me saying this because he was a Bill player late and is friends with those guys. The Bills basically quit in both games. They did. When you have 9 turnovers, that's ridiculous in one game. You quit. And then in the second Super Bowl, they lost to the Cowboys. They're winning at the half. And they're walking into the locker room like they're down by 3 touchdowns. Jim Kelly was the only one that had bounce to his step. The rest of the guys just kind of pack it in. And then when Thurman Thomas fumbled the ball, it's as if they knew they were going to lose. Instead of sucking it up and playing hard and saying, no, we're not losing this game, guys. The sideline was all discouraged. And that's a mental thing.
And it's just like you're waiting for something bad to happen.
Yeah. And they were waiting, the Buffalo against the team you are in Dallas at the time.
And with us, we were waiting for something good to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Even though you were down at the half in that second 13-6 to Buffalo. It was calm, no problem. Yeah.
It's an interesting halftime because we thought we were going to get cussed out. And Jimmy comes in and says, okay, let's go win the game. And that's all it said. And we walked out there and won it.
Yeah.
So, Sonia, I let this go on much longer than it should have because I wanted to give you a opportunity to give me the correct pick here on this last pick you're going to give me here with Tampa Bay and the Eagles. I've got to give you a hard time. So, but you know that. Go ahead. You got it.
I gave you Tampa Bay. You forgot.
And she explained why.
Did you give me Tampa? Yes. Yes, you did. See,
I'm waiting to talk about the most dangerous team.
Oh, yeah, the most dangerous team. Who do you think?
I think it's Baltimore. They haven't lost a game since November 12th, despite having a lot of injuries with their running backs, J.K. Dobbins and Keaton Mitchell, both had gone down with knee injuries. And they've had a banged-up O-line as a result. But nonetheless, they've still been able to deal with those injuries and still win, and additionally, I mean, I had to look into this one a little bit. They have the third best defense adjusted value over average, and they're the first team to put up 100% in that ranking. So I feel like Baltimore, when you deal with injuries and you're still able to win games, says a lot. We're January 14th. They haven't lost since November 12th. That's saying a lot. So I would think outside of Lamar, that's saying something.
And their big tight end is back too for this game. In case you didn't know, his favorite Mark Andrews is back for Baltimore. Yeah. But again, Baltimore is a dangerous team. We know how good Baltimore is. They've been good all year. So that's not what I meant. I meant if there was a team that was out there that nobody expects to win, who would that be to go to the Super Bowl?
Houston, the Texans. I think the Texans. No one expects that.
Okay.
I think what they've done is a football miracle, to be honest with you. I know people may think that's overthinking it, but that coaching quarterback combination is astounding, honestly. So I think they could be really dangerous.
No quarterback is as big a difference maker as Lamar Jackson. Remember that. He's, I don't want to say that he single-handedly won games. Obviously, he hasn't. It's a team game. But he's performed some great heroics in the past.
I don't know. I think you could say the same thing for C.J. Stroud right now too. I think he's one of the biggest difference makers for the Texans too. So I mean, I think it's going to be a good game. I really do. I think the Texans really have a chance at winning this, folks. Just to let you know before the producer throws something at me, she picked Tampa Bay, so we have her pick on record also. So. Folks, thanks for tuning in. We're going to cut out a little bit earlier than we normally do, about 10 minutes early, 9 minutes early. But after I get done thanking everybody, maybe it'll be the normal time. Keith, sorry you couldn't make it in. Good luck out there in Vegas. I don't know if you're gambling or not, or you're there for a meeting, but he'll get some gambling anyway. And Jim, always a pleasure having you on here with your NFL experience and playoff experience, Super Bowl experience. Take us to where no other person could take us on there. Jack, as always, great with the banter and great with the historical facts and teams and what happened, whatnot.
We should have talked about Shea Stadium, Mac. You cut me off.
I know I did. I wanted to move it along. Sonia, thank you for. I think you finally got that last pick right for us. So I think you're getting it, and we'll be back. Me and Jack will be back Monday, giving you the first look at the Sunday games and our preview of the Monday night afternoon game coming up. So we'll be there first, 8 a.m. We'll be going on to Military Broadcast Radio. So we're going to another place there too. So that's exciting for us. Sonia, her show is always on. She has her NESSP at night slot there every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Has her own show on Wednesday. Jim has his show, J&B Talking Shop, on Wednesday too. Wednesday's always a very, very busy day over there for us. So if you want to catch a lot of shows going one right after another, Wednesday night's the best time on our Roku channel. Thanks to NBR Radio. Thanks to Joel Hunt for helping us set that up. Thank you from Rick. Rick, you're always with us. We love having you as
we really appreciate you, Rick.
Yeah, thanks,
we really
Rick.
do.
Well, listen, the Vikings were eliminated, so Rick's got time on his hands.
Yes, that's true. But anyway, so Rick was behind you the whole show, Jack, and now you go.
No, I mean, I mean, you spend no time talking about the Vikings. Next show, give Rick that respect. Talk a little about his Vikings.
Okay, that sounds good, Joel. Thanks for the hot. Again, guys, we'll be back Monday. Got some shows coming up. Got a couple new shows coming up tonight. This afternoon, the drive with the NFL Genius. We have the Man Cave giving us a new show with his son, which that's exciting to me because I never saw his son on his show with him. So hey, listen, maybe Jim does something with Jackson eventually. If Jackson may not, Jackson may not want to be on with Jim. And who could?
Well, Jackson can help.
My man Jack loves.
Right. You see, I can make this go an hour, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the games today. And if you got a dog in a fight, and even if you don't, I hope